Hello and welcome to a footnote video where I look through the comments and I will address them in the form of a video. I try my best to look for the interesting ones and also the more educational ones, or sometimes if it's just a question, I'll answer it so that everyone else would know as well. Now I'm doing this at the top of my head because I don't have much time left for the day, and tomorrow is a work day, so I won't be free for a while. My voice might be a little bit muffled because I'm still having a sore throat, but I will try my best to edit any coughing or those things out. Let's just get into the comments because we actually have quite a few. So the first one is from the Breach Surge video and is Shelag. He or she says, really awesome information, fascinating to learn about the double breach search when you teleport to a reservoir with a Spectre active. Also excellent testing with how overflow damage works with the Sparks spawn cap. The tiny detail I'm not sure you tested is if the spark cap is per enemy affected or overall while the ability is active. Can you affect a big pile of enemy with ability, then use mass DOT weapons like the Ignis, Phantasma, or Emprax to make every single enemy pew out 3 to 4 sparks a second? To answer his question, no, just to clarify, his question is that is the cap, because Breach Surge has a cap where it can only produce sparks, like about 3 sparks per second. And I tried that, or rather the testing that I did in the video only shows it on one enemy. But later on when I did it with multiple enemies, you can actually see that it's per enemy. So it's not based on the ability, the cap is not on the ability, the cap is on per enemy. So if you have, let's say, 3 enemies with Breach Surge affected, you can do damage to all 3 of them and they will keep sparking, each one of them 3 sparks per second roughly. Okay, the next one is from Conquistical. What does that mean? Don't know if I miss you saying it, but during the duration with Will O Whips is out, you're completely invisible. That includes weapon noise. So I did not say this in that video because that video is actually more specifically for just Breach Surge. Because of the time constraint, I know that if I want to research every single ability one by one, it's going to take me a lot more time to do. So that whole video was just me researching on Breach Surge. The other stuff that I talked about of her other ability is usually like general stuff. So I did not mention this, but yes, if you use Will Whips, you are completely invisible, and that includes weapon noise. Thanks for sharing that information. Next we have one from Johnny B Gamer. He says, good video, nice insight into the synergies. That being said, your example comeback at the end worked well because all the enemies were able to tank enough hits for the benefit of the sparks to be noticeable. When playing regular Star Chart missions like we do, a good portion of the time it's more like a horde mode game when most drops with far less hits, and with kill shots not yielding sparks, would this not reduce the effectiveness of the sparks? Sure, with easier to kill targets, sparks can outright take out other targets, but wouldn't the player still be left with fewer sparks than what we saw with those heavy targets? P.S. I'm on console, so I'm just speculating as I have yet to try. Okay, what he points out here is something someone said before in my comments as well. A lot of all these examples are done with heavy gunners because they are one of the toughest unit. They have 500 armor, base armor, and they scale incredibly as they level. So for most cases in the star chart where enemies are, below level 50-ish, you don't really need to have something really good. In fact, a lot of the times, the things that I talk about, we run it with a level 155 heavy gunner, because if you can take out a really high level heavy gunner, chances are you can use it to take out all the other small units as well. The problem here is that when it comes to this particular topic where the sparks needs to be produced in order to get a lot of those sparks, you can't really produce a lot of sparks if the enemy affected with Breach Surge dies immediately. So that's what it's trying to point out. To some extent, a lot of my videos are targeted to people who have already finished the star chart. They are more or less like hovering with the sorties and doing like endless missions, and also the elite modes, those kind of things, where you would actually find a high level heavy gunner or heavy units. So yeah, a lot of the things that I share really depends on your situation, whether or not it would help you. For example, all the armor reduction videos that I did before, if you're not going against any Grineers, then most likely those videos not going to be relevant with you. And I think this is a good comment because it makes sense to tell people not to use everything that you see on YouTube just because it works on a heavy gunner. But a lot of times you really do not need to be that particular to go through the star chart. Next we have MIB Boss. Now this is for the boss fight video. I don't even remember what the boss's name is anymore. Rhino can be suggested for this, maybe. Iron Skin ignores the knockdown and is your chance for surviving the beam. Although the real way to not getting hit is by keep moving. His Raw can be a good way to buff your weapon to shoot down the Synovia, and his Storm can CC the mobs around you to buy you some time. You may ignore the mobs simply for faster killing. However, just saying the mobs can drop good stuff occasionally. I got my first Vengeful Revenant stance. Huzzah! Otherwise, you have covered pretty much the basics for it. Cheers, man. I hope all goes good for ya there. Zell, my good man. Okay, so from the start of that video, I used a mag, and we were sort of like memeing mag because a lot of people think that she's bad, but she's actually pretty good. And the idea is that if I can pull it off with a squishy little mag, I should be able to do this boss fight with any other frame. I did mention that there are some frames that's pretty good in that video, but I did not mention Rhino. So MIB Boss here is trying to suggest Rhino being one of the best, and I do agree. Iron Skin worked wonders. Iron Skin can ignore a lot of status, such as knockdown. There are also some like mana burn abilities from other bosses that is also voided if you have Iron Skin on. It also could take a lot of damage, and if you time it right, if Iron Skin were to take a lot of damage while it's invulnerable, it could take even more damage later on. And then he also goes on to say that Roar is a good buff for your weapons. So all in all, from what I can see, Rhino is pretty ideal in this situation. So thank you so much for sharing. This is from Igrao, I hope I pronounced that correctly. He or she says, if the boss grabs you, you can go into operator mode and shoot his arm to release your Warframe. So that's interesting. I didn't know that because all this time I've been trying to avoid getting grabbed. I never really explore what happens after you get grabbed. Using your typical tank frame like Inaros probably nullifies the need to care for ads. If you void dash immediately to the generator before the animation of the Ropalolis finishes, also that's what the boss is called, you'll be able to make it in time before the sentient energy wave starts spawning. The video is very nice and summarized up. Would love to see you do a video on the clones of you, since I didn't really notice it during when I was farming my Wiz blueprint. I'm sharing this comment because I feel like there's a lot of useful information here, like for example, you can hit the boss's hand to release your Warframe apparently, and also you can do void dashes to get from one point to the other really quickly. Now about the clones, I believe they are spawned by one of the sentients. I'm not really sure, and I don't know what are the stats of the clones and stuff like that, but now that you mention it, maybe I'll take a look at it and share it with you if I manage to find out anything interesting. Moving on. Next we have Videl. Hey Zel, Just curious, do you still stream on Twitch? Because I haven't seen you stream for a while. Or are you busy and now just making videos? Anyways, enjoy the video, keep it up. I stopped streaming. I kept my streaming laptop in the bag. It's already in storage. The reason why is because I don't have that much time to do it, and a lot of times I find myself streaming for not a lot of people at a time, and I find there's a lot of better use of that time, so I decided to focus more on doing videos instead. However, in the future, if I manage to get more time, I'll probably start streaming again, but we'll see. The next one is from ZendyPans. Very interesting in your comment about the damage over time interacts being unintentional. I think that the Amalgam Argonac Metal Auger, the interaction where you can reduce armor even with a damage over time effects, feels unintentional, while Breach Surge, I think it's hard to say whether it's supposed to make sparks when you do damage over time. Lots more thoughts about this weird amalgam mod. We'll try to respond in further details. Thank you for the excellent video. So ZendyPants is also a creator. He's a Warframe partner. I see him Twitch a lot. He streams a lot. He also makes YouTube videos. He's doing it full time if I'm not mistaken. You guys can go check him out. He probably have a lot more consistent uploads of Warframe than I do. Yeah, so to address this comment, I do feel like it's unintentional because there's a lot of things where if it works with DOT damage, I feel like they would find a way to let us know. The fact that we have to sort of like struggle to learn about it feels like it's not intentional, and I also again feel like DE isn't really the type that would want to overcomplicate mechanics. It just happens to work that way. So that's just from my perspective. And also in the past, there's not a lot of triggers that works with DOT, so this is relatively new, and that is also why I feel like it might not be intentional. But for all we know, unless they say something, we wouldn't really know. Next comment. From JJ Joko, how do I get your glyph? Looks amazing. Now I know the channel is not doing that well. Usually we do glyphaways for every like 100 sub milestone, but because the channel is not doing that well, we can't really do our glyphaways. So it's been a while, and a big sum of it is my fault for being too busy and not uploading enough. Also, there is kind of a content drought. I don't really know what to do at the moment because I don't want to do what everyone else is doing. So for the content to be always unique, it's a little bit harder. But I tell you what, since it has been so long, the first, I don't know, 10 people who says Glyphaway down at the comments right now, and then PM me in Discord saying that you commented Glyphaway, I will give you a glyph code for your platform. Now make sure that you do not already have my glyph, because that way other people could win it, so that you don't be hogging like 3 or 4 glyphs just because you have 3 or 4 accounts. And yeah, don't get it for your friends. Make them watch the video. Okay, next comment. 96 Sam Cosmo. Another tool to analyze the difference between these two weapons would be a graph. You can graph the damage reduction. You can graph the damage reduction of the enemy after every hit to see which setup kills faster. I did graphs before in the past, and a lot of times by making the graph it actually takes me more time, but I do agree on the point where graphs actually makes things look clearer, especially for viewers. So I have to think about it, and maybe we will introduce more graphs in the future for other analyzing videos. Thank you so much for pointing that out. Next we have Ilyi. I'm sorry if I butchered your name, but it's gonna be Ilyi now. It was enjoyable to watch your thoughts process and how you approach to your questions. Very cool and interesting video. Flying Scorpion also said that I like how instead of going straight to the answer, you explain your methodology and the problems you encountered and solve along the way. Make for an interesting story and also teaches people how to solve these problems for themselves. That is actually what I'm going for. and I thank you that you guys commented this, because there are times when I tried, this was quite a long time ago when I make my videos. I didn't really explain that much in detail, so people will always question like, how did you get this? How do you know what you know? And then I need to spend a good sum of time explaining how I know to those people. So now that I've gone through those situations, I feel like it's always better to be clearer, and I share the steps that I took and what kind of mistakes that I made before coming to my conclusion. And from there, you can actually sort of like see a more definite proof of why I say what I said. And yeah, and because of that, I have less questions like that where I have to keep answering them. And it really makes it a lot easier. The objective is to make it clear so that people know how I did it, and also if they were to want to investigate something else, they know the steps to do so. However, I can't please everyone. There's always still that small portion of people that wants to just get the answer. They do not want to go through the hows and whys and how you get to this conclusion. They just want to know what's the result. And I feel like in life that is very dangerous, because if you just have answers and you don't know how people get those answers, you're very easily subjected to be cheated. Because if someone just says that, oh, you should buy this because it's really good, and you bought it and it actually isn't really that good, because you never stopped to wonder why it was good in the first place, then you're basically being conned. So if you're one of those people that don't have the time to sit through the video, I guess you can go to the back of the video. Lately, I've been taking a suggestion to heart, where someone said that I should add like a summary at the back. So usually now I'll try my best, if I remember, to just go and say like, as a summary, blah 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 blah. So yeah, maybe you can try and look for that. Now that I think about it a little bit more, I feel like a very good reason for explaining my steps in getting my results is that other nerdy people, they can go through my steps and see if there's any issues with it, and if there is, they can quickly come to point out. Instead of just giving you results, they wouldn't even know if I did it correctly or not. So yeah, it also helps me figure out what I did wrong from you guys. Next comment. Mean Bill. Shattering Impact such an odd mod. It makes players sick, literally. I don't know if it makes players sick, but I do think that Shattering Impact is really odd. To me, Shattering Impact shouldn't probably work the way they do, just based on the description on that mod. Again, it's one of those things that it feels like it's unintentional. They made it wanting to work in a certain way, but then it ends up working in a slightly even different way. But then I feel like it's a sort of like a happy accident, if it's even an accident, because it makes the mod a lot more viable. Otherwise, there's really almost no reason to use Shattering Impact at all, unless you're fighting enemies below level 5 or something. Now, another way where you can make Shattering Impact really good without the confusing mechanics or the description is to make it reduce a flat value of armor for the current armor, but step it up a bit, make it higher. Now, there is other drawbacks if you were to make this change, because there are melee weapons that also behaves like shotguns, like the Redeemer, and if you have Shattering Impact on even right now, it could remove enemies' armor pretty quickly. So yeah, I feel like DE just really need to find a way to balance these things out. Otherwise, either there'll be things that no one wants to use, or there'll be things that everyone wants to use and no one wants to use anything else. Which, by the way, I think they did a really good job introducing ribbons, because then it makes those less used weapons more usable because they have a higher ribbon disposition. Okay, next question. Now this is gonna be probably the last comment that I'll be looking at, and this is about this guy called Creasus044. I think he's been in the community really long, and I appreciate him. I don't want to point him out too badly or anything, but I do want to say that when you guys comment on the comment section, try to be humble. Try to be a little bit better with your words, because I'm gonna read out what he says. So immediately he starts with, this is correct and incorrect. The easiest way to say is that they are a separate multiplier. So this is for the video on how Shattering Impact and Corrosive stack. I done extensive testing on this, so let me help you out. There are 3 total armor strip layers: base, Shattering Impact, total, Oberon and Corrosive Projection, and current, Corrosive, Aux, Polarized, Terrifying, etc. They are not additive to each other, and they have an order. First base, then total, then it's current. You can see this when you use Oberon with CP, which are additive. Oberon with Corrosive, first would be Oberon, then Corrosive Strip, and Oberon with Shattering Impact, which would be Shattering Impact, then Oberon. You should start asking me about these things before you post videos. I got you on Discord. So I actually don't think that it's intentional. I think he's actually being generous. He wants to offer his help, but it's just the way that he phrased his words that could come out a little bit cynical. First of all, right off the bat, it says that I'm correct and incorrect, but he didn't really specify which part that I was incorrect of. Then he's really confident about what he knows. And the problem with this statement is that you can't really say 2 things are separate multipliers if you have to have an order to them. If A times B equals to C, then B times A is also equals to C. So the fact that you can't really just do this, and he said that you have to go through order, that makes it not really just a separate multiplier. There is some steps that you have to do first, especially with Shattering Impact, because you have to do some calculations first with the spawn armor. So it's kind of like apple and oranges. One is base armor, another one is in a percentage. So you have to convert, either find a way to convert the other one into percentage, then you can times them. And if you do that, you don't need to have any sequence for them. Something interesting that I learned is that there's apparently 3 types of ways where armor is being reduced, according to him at least. So I have to come back and do my own research on this as well, because like right now he's giving me results, it's giving me facts, and I don't know how he come to this conclusion, if his research is even correct. But it is something interesting to note for now. What I don't really like about this comment, to be honest, is just the fact that he says that I'm incorrect and he didn't justify which part, and then after that he said something like, you should ask me about these things before you post a video. And I feel like, how would I know that you know about this? And if I were to ask you every single question that runs through my mind, we should probably be living together. I'm just saying. Now then later on, I asked him again which part was incorrect about my video. Now in case you guys do not know, I really want to know if something is wrong with my video, because if a part is wrong, it can lead to my results being wrong. And also, if something is wrong and I'm sharing it, everyone will have the wrong idea. So it's very important, especially when making something more technical, that you have everything correct. And if it's wrong and it's too late to make a new video, I want to at least add it at the description. So it took a while. I asked him at least twice, and finally he replied. He said that it's just the stuff I said after 11.43. So let's go over there and take a look at the video and see what I've said.
Zelp feels like there might be other interesting ways to use the Shattering Impact mechanics now knowing how it works. Maybe it will work with Corrosive Projection weirdly, or Warframe's armor reduction abilities. If those abilities do not work similar to Corrosive procs, you might be able to make good use of it. But that might be for another video. Thanks for watching.
So yeah, there's nothing that's said there that implies that I know about what's gonna happen. Everything that I said maybe blah blah blah, and then I said it might blah blah blah. This shows that I'm not sure and I would like to find out, and if it's true, then it might be really great. Now I feel like, although it's just a small little thing and he got it wrong, the fact that he called me out in the comments saying that I'm incorrect, and I feel like there's a lot of nicer ways to approach this. Even though if you're confident that you know what you're talking about, I believe that there are some people who maybe they have siblings that act this way, or their parents are like that. So they kind of adapted this personality where they feel more superior when they point out someone being wrong. You shouldn't call someone wrong or incorrect right off the bat just to feel superior. Instead, if you really want the other party to improve, you should find out how he got it wrong and then share what you think is right. Because for all we know, you're the one that got it wrong. And in this case, which is a good example, is that he got the wrong idea and he said that I was incorrect on a statement that I didn't even make. But with that said, I believe he's a good person, and he did say that he got me on Discord, which there's two ways of looking at it. It could just mean that, oh, I have you on Discord, or it actually means that I got you, brother, at Discord. So I choose to see it the better way. Now, this is obviously not the worst comment that I've ever gotten. Now, this is just one of those things that you have to face when you start YouTube. And if he's just a stranger, I wouldn't mind just forgetting about it and look away. But because he is someone that is frequently here and someone that I care about, I feel like I need to address this. And hopefully this makes the people in this community more humble and also polite when using your words. Remember, the pen can be mightier than the sword. Okay, and that is all for this video. Thanks for mingling around with me, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.